Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Code with Hafiz. My name is Hafizullah Masoodi, and in this video I'm going to show you the create and read functionality of any file type extension for your Laravel 9 and Vue JS 3 single page applications. Before everything else, I want to say that if you find this video useful, don't forget to hit the like button and write a nice comment also. And if you are new to this channel, hit the subscribe button too if you want more videos like this. Alright, thanks for your support. Now let's start the tutorial. So for this tutorial I will use a to-do application already built with Laravel 9 in Vue JS 3, and if you want to check out how we reached to this point, please refer to the description of this video and find all the links in there. And if you want to stick with this video and just learn today's topic, you can find the link to the repository of this application in the description of this video too. And you can clone the repo using git command tool, and just make sure to install composer and npm dependencies, and also connect to the database and run migration and suite so to get started. Now let's start our tutorial. Now let's first of all log into our system. Now I already have an account, so admin@app.com, and the password is password. Now let's go to our task component, and in here if we click on this new task, you can see we have this function for creating a new task, and we are also uploading an image with this task, and we did all of this in our previous videos. And again, if you want to check out how we did this, you can check out those videos always. So for this video, the first thing that we will do is create a field for our file. So we need to do this in our tasks table and also in our tasks model. So let's do it, guys. Let's go to the Visual Studio Code and open our project in there. So in here, the first thing that we need to do is create the field in our table. So let's go to database migrations, and let me maximize it. So we need to create the field in this tasks migration. So let's open it, and you can see we already have a task file field. So what we can do is duplicate this one, and for this one let's name it other file, and we also want this one to be nullable, so nullable is correct. Now let's save this file, close it, and let's migrate fresh. So let's go to the terminal, and in here let's clear it first, and I will migrate fresh. So for that, let's say php artisan migrate :fresh, and press enter. And now let's also run our database seed to create the initial user accounts. So first let's clear. Now let's say php artisan db :seed, and now let's clear it again. And now let's get back to the browser. Let's open a new tab, and let's go to localhost phpMyAdmin, and in here let's go to the to-do app, and we want to check out the tasks table. So let's go to the tasks, and now you can see we have this other file field in here. Now the next part is, guys, to add this field as a fillable property in our task model. So let's go to the task model, and for that we have to go to the Visual Studio Code, and let's go to app http, or not http, we have to go to this models folder. So let's open task model, and let's duplicate this field, and for this one we want to say other_file. Now this being done, let's close the file. Now next up we have to create the input field for our other file. So for that we have to go to the task component. So let's go to resources, JS components, and task component. Let me close the sidebar, and in here you can see this is the task file field, and we want to create same input field for our other file also. So what we can do is duplicate this one, and we want this one to be available when the delete mode is false, so it's okay. And instead of a task file, let's say other file, and in here let's also say other file. And for the input type, file is correct, and for the ID, let's say other file. And we also want a change event assigned to this input field, but for the function name, let's say selected other file. Now the next part is, guys, to create this function, but before that let's create an object for this other file in our task data, because for now you can see we are sending all or binding all of these inputs to this task data, and in there we have an object for each of them. So let's scroll down. Well, before that let's copy this function name, so we will paste it in the methods. So let's scroll down to our data, and this is our data part, and this is our task data property. So we can duplicate this one, and for the name let's say other file. Now let's create our function. So let's scroll down to the methods, and I will create it with the other file function, which is only for the image. So let's scroll down, and yeah, this is the selected task file. So in here what we can do is, at the top let's paste our function name, and then we have event coming from that add change event. So let's put our comma to get rid of the error. Now in here the only thing that we need to do is we will assign the file from this event to the object that we created earlier. So let's say this dot task data dot other file, so other underscore file should equal to e dot target dot files and then brackets 0. And this is how we can get the file from an event. And if you want to see how this works, you can console log this e dot target files 0, so you can see for yourself how it works. So I will not console log it. Now the next thing is to append all of our data in our store function. So let's scroll to the top, and this is the store function for the task, and you can see we are validating the data in here, and if the validation is true or the data is true, then we are calling Axios post and sending the data. Well, working with files does not require the Axios like this, so we need to append the data first of all using the form data API that we have in JavaScript. So after appending the data, then we have to send that form data variable in this store task Axios request. So to have more clear understanding of this concept, let's start working on it. Now first things first, so what we can do is, before this Axios post request, let's press enter here, and we need first of all a config variable. So let's say const config, we should equal to an object, and in here we want some headers. So now let's say curly braces, and we want to pass content hyphen type, and let's put our comma, and we want this one to be multipart slash form hyphen data. Or guys, this should not be a comma but colon. Now this being done, let's create a variable or an object of form data API. So let's say let form data should equal to new form data parenthesis. And this being done, let's now append all of our data to this form data variable. So let's press enter here, and let's say form data dot append, and we need, first of all, let's say our title. So after the title we can put the comma, and now we can call our this keyword, then task data, then dot title. Now we can duplicate this one a couple of times. Now the next thing that we need for our task is the date, so let's put the date also. Now the next thing that we need is the time, so let's put the time also. Now next up we have a detail, so let's paste our detail. And next we have the task file, so task file, and in here let's also say a task file. And finally we have our other file, so other underscore file, and in here let's also say other underscore file. Now this being done, now instead of sending this dot task data, we can send this forum data. So let's remove it and let's say forum data, and let's also put a comma and pass our config variable too. Now this being done, we are finished in here. Now we have to go to the controller and handle the forum data there. So let's go to the controller, so let's go to app, http controllers and task controller, and let me close the sidebar. Now in here you can see we have this code for the task file, and we can do the same. Well, this is the update task. We need to work in the store task, so let's find the store method. Yeah, this is the store task. So we will do the same as we did for the image, but with a little bit of difference. Now first of all, let's duplicate this if else statement. So I will duplicate it, and now we will customize it for our other file upload. So the first thing that we need to do is, for example, check for the other file instead of task file. So let's say other underscore file, and then let's declare an upload path. So I will create another variable, let's say upload underscore path, which should equal to public underscore path, and let's name it uploads. Now next thing that we need to do is create our file. So what we can do is remove this line of code. Instead of it, let's say $sign other underscore file should equal to time parenthesis, and then we wanna get the file extension and concatenate it with this time. So dot dot and then dot again, and then we want to say request arrow other underscore file and arrow get client extension. So get client original extension. This is how we get the extension. So get client original extension. Now the next part is to move the file or copy the file to the public directory or the path that we declared. So let's remove the image, and in here let's say $sign request arrow other file and then arrow move, and then we can use our $sign upload path and comma the file name that we declared, so other file. Now for the else, we wanna say other file should be null if we don't have any files. Now let's also pass it in our create function. So in here let's create or duplicate this field, and let's say other file, and in here let's also say other file. Now this being done, let's create this uploads folder. So let's go to the sidebar and public directory, and in here let's create a new folder and let's name it uploads. So for now you can see it's empty. Now let's create a task and check our code if it works. So let's go to the web browser and let's refresh, and let's try to create a task. So task number 1, let's select a date for it and a time for it, and let's say some text for task number 1. And well, we don't have our field, guys. Well, let's hard reload, and yeah, now we have our field. So I didn't notice at the first place. Now let's fill out the form again. Task number 1, some date, some time, and let's say some text for task number 1. And we don't want to assign a task file but another file. So let's go to our pictures and wallpapers, and let's select this image. Now let's create the task. Well, I think we have some errors. So let's see what is the error. And if we go to the network tab, let me maximize it a little bit. Well, we don't have anything. Now let's check our folder. Well, we don't have anything. So let's try to submit another task. Now let's say task number 1 to see the error more clearly. So let's say some text, and let's say other file, and let's select pictures, wallpapers, and this image. Now let's create, and now let's click on it. So I will maximize it, and it's saying that get client original extension on a string, call to a member function, line 35. So let's see what is the problem. Let's get back to our Visual Studio Code, and let me close the sidebar. So in here we have request other file, and we are getting client original extension. Well, this should work, guys. So let's troubleshoot it, guys, and we can do that by going to the Visual Studio Code, and let's scroll to the function, which is this one, and in here let's console.log and the e.target.files and 0, and let's also console log after we assign the data. So in here let's say in this dot task data dot other underscore file. Now let's save it. Let's get back to the browser, let's refresh, let's go to our console tab, and let's select a file. So let's go to the pictures, wallpapers, and this one. Well, this means that our file is being selected correctly, but it's not sending to the controller. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and the next thing that we can do is let's comment this task model height in our store function, and in here we are consoling log the response data, which is correct. So let's go to the controller, and at the top at the very first line, let's return $request arrow other file and semicolon. Now let's save it. Let's get back to the browser, let's refresh, and this time let's assign a data. So I will say task, select a date, select a time, some text, and now let's select a file. So let's go to pictures, wallpapers, and this file, and let's create the task, and it is showing this. Well, I think we cannot see the file like this. When we return the whole file, it will show it like this, but we can see the file extension. So let's copy this, and in here let's say arrow get client original extension, and this should show us, for example, the image extension. So let's get back to the browser and let's submit again, and you can see it's showing JPG, which means our file is going through the controller. But why isn't it uploading? So guys, what we can do is get the extension separately. So let's say $extension should equal to $request arrow other file and arrow get client extension. Now this being done, instead of writing the file name like this, now we can concatenate $extension. Now I think we are good to go. Nothing seems to be broken. So let's try it again. Well, before that, let's go to the top of this function and remove this part. So let's remove it. Now let's save it, save everything, and let's get back to the web browser. Let's refresh and let's try to create a task. So task number 1, some date, some time, some text, some file, and let's create the task, and it's still throwing the error. And yeah, this time it's saying unable to write in this folder, and that is because I am using Linux. It doesn't have permissions to write in that folder. So for that, what I can do is go to the terminal and let's go one folder back. So cd ... and to fix this problem, if you are using Windows, you should be good to go. So because I'm using Linux, I have to write this command. So sudo chmod and then -r and 757 and then let's say to do app, and now it should work. So let's get back to the browser, and if I submit this time, now you can see task stored successfully. And if we go back to the Visual Studio Code and go to, for example, our publics folder, and let's see the uploads, and you can see we have our image, which means our upload is working just fine. So let's go to the task component, guys, and let me uncomment this model height code. Now the next part is to create a button for our file to download the file. Now for that, what we can do is scroll to the top to our table. So let's go to the table, and yeah, this is the table, and in here what we can do is after this task file, let's create another th, and let's say other file, and let's scroll down. Well, this is the task file. Now let's create another td, and for the file download we will create an anchor tag. So let's also bind this href to view object, and in here let's say, for example, we want the URL, or we already have a URL, so we will use another URL. So let's say URL2, and then we want to concatenate it with the file name. So let's say plus, and then let's say task.other_file. Now this being done, let's press enter here, and in here let's say download, and next what we can do is assign some classes to this anchor tag. So class btn-dark, and I think that's enough. And let's also, for example, check for the file. So we want to show it if there is any file to download. So let's copy this code and paste it here. Now instead of task file, we want to check for the other file, and we also want this paragraph. So let's copy it. If there isn't any file, so we want to show these 3 dots. So let's say other file, Now this being done, we have to create this URL too. So let's go to our data property. So let's just scroll down, and in here we already have this URL, so let's duplicate it, and for instead of URL, let's say URL2, and we need the window.url, but instead of images tasks, we want to go to uploads / and then the file name. Now let's save this. Let's get back to the browser, and now let's refresh, and let's hot reload. Well, we have this Google API fonts error, ignore it. Well, it's not showing the anchor tag, so let's see what is the problem. Let's just scroll to the anchor tag, and we wanna, yeah, this should be true, so not false, and this one should be false. So fix that. If the other file is true, then we want to show the download. So let's get back to the browser, let's refresh, and now we have our button, and if I hover over it, you can see at the corner is showing our link, and if I click on it, now our file is being loaded, and we can load it in a blank page also. Well, let's do it, guys. So let's say target and then underscore blank. Let's get back to the browser, refresh, and if I click on it now you can see our file is being downloaded. Now this being done, you know how to perform the create and read operations for any file type extension using Laravel 9 and Vue JS 3. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If so, don't forget to give the thumbs up and a nice comment also. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button also, if you want to see more videos like this. Now thanks for watching, see ya in the next video.